I remember us creating it from sound, from frequency, from resonance.
It's creating this realm.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the stars are in or on the firmament surface. So it's a hard, fast, crystalline type of structure. They did an MIT study out of Colorado, and they sent out signals from Earth up into space, and much to their amazement, there was a hard, fast structure at about 7,000 miles out. There's a great rift that runs down the middle of the firmament and opens.
Oh, is this the Ragnarok?
Yes. Everything that you're experiencing is an emanation from you, and that's all Mother and Father want anyone to know. They want me to tell everybody that here, the center of all creation, is you.
I am Jason Abraham, the Shadow Teacher 33, professional wellness and sovereignty coach, practical mystic and warrior of truth and grand illusion. I am honored to share yet another revelation conversation with writer, philosopher, researcher, keeper of the ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge, or should I say master of the ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge and keeper of the great, or Kadab, Arc Source One, Jonathan Johnson.
Hey, Jason. I wouldn't say I'm the master of much, but I appreciate the
Yes,
title.
sir. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
Well, I am doing this after being hungover for 2 days and just got a speeding ticket on the way here.
Shoot.
So, what would you say the universe is trying to say to me right now? It's saying I'm being a hypocrite when I just mentioned being professional wellness and sovereignty coach and being hungover for 2 days straight.
I would say, yeah, maybe it wasn't the best thing that you could have done, but hey, I mean, every once in a while.
Every once in a
you
while.
got it. I mean, you can't keep the car straight in 2 lanes, forever. You got to go off road once in a while. So I do too, man. Sometimes I just have to take a break from the discipline and all this stuff we do.
And the speeding ticket, that's a reminder that I am still participating in the matrix too.
Yeah, those are not pleasant. I get them every once in a while, and it always has that same feeling.
There's that I'm still playing a role in a system of control, even though I'm very much doing my best to advocate for my spirit and just looking at ways to break free. That's ultimately what a lot of these conversations are about freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that is not what I came here to talk about. That just happened to show up on the way.
Wow.
We're going to talk about the Matrix in another conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But this kind of relates to that. So, as long as I've grown up, I remember globes being in my house. I remember like a big globe that I used to play with when I was a kid. And I've always held the belief that through science, we now understand that the Earth is a sphere. It's a globe. And before I get into that, this is a disclaimer too, because YouTube has this really annoying habit of always moving their goalposts, changing their guidelines, and changing the rules of the game once you've had videos up, and then deciding, we don't like what you're saying, so we're going to take this off. We're going to yank this out from under, even though it may have been up for a year. And so one of the annoying guidelines is this is going to make the fucking final cut too. And I know this is going to be up on YouTube, but this is going to stay in the cut, is that there is a no conspiracy policy. So for the record, we're not engaging in conspiracy. We're just having a discussion today. And hopefully this discussion will be up for years to come after this has been filmed and put up there. But I'm just saying that. Now, back to my anecdote about the globe. So I always had globes in my home. And it was my understanding that at one time, the consensus belief was that we lived on a plane, like a realm that was flat. And then at some point, through science and discovery, the belief changed, that this earth plane, this earth existence that we live on, this planet is a globe, and planets are spheres or globes. And I believe the heliocentric model, which is actually a very ancient model, is the belief that the sun is the center of our universe, and then all of the planets rotate around the sun. And I believe Nicholas Copernicus survived that belief in the Renaissance, and then Kepler looked at this. Oh, and it's not, they don't rotate, they're ellipses that move around the sun. But recently, in the past few years, there's been debate of whether this is true, whether this Earth is a globe, or is it, there are many who believe that it's flat, and people get all worked up over this. This is not something that I ever got super worked up, but I've just found this super fascinating, and I'm curious of what your thoughts are on this particular matter.
Well, this one's, I like this one. This is, suffice it to say, I did come across those same models, same different differentiations between the two. So I decided to get to work on that one, and because there's the two aspects for me. There's usually the I remember it this way, but then there's also, well, let's see how much of the data proves it out. So I got to work. I can't remember how long I've been working on that one in particular, but it's been quite a while. So yeah, like you said, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, all these different people. A lot of people aren't even aware that a lot of these people are Freemasons, and a lot of them are in line with the Masonic traditions and rites and things. And a lot of people aren't aware either that some of these individuals didn't necessarily agree with their own theory. It was just a theory at the time. But then they were approached by other individuals that wanted them to promote it. So they promoted that individual to promote the narrative or the theory that they had come up with. Now, I have actually, this one I'm going to have to use my cheat sheet because...
Whoa, that's a first. No way.
There's so much I've had to cover on it. But, I mean, the original cosmologies from the ancients, from the Mayans, the Incas, Aztecs, we've got almost every major civilization. We've got the Mayans, Aztecs, Navajo, the Hebrew, the Hindu, Babylonian, Egyptian, Celtic, Norse, Islam, Inca, Japanese. The Masonic traditions, of course, hold the same belief. Slavic, Roman, Sumerian, Persian, Greek, Chinese, and even African cosmologies all originally were what we would term, I call it the concentric sphere plane Earth cosmology, because it is a globe, but it's not, it's a globe, but it's also a plane. It's not the same context as how they've turned it around. But these original cosmologies were all originally a plane Earth with some sort of a vault, a dome, or a rakia is the Hebrew. Firmament is the biblical reference. But they're all the same. They all have the same, with the Egyptians, it was Nut and Geb. And I believe it was Geb. I think Geb was the vault.
In Norse, it would be Midgard, like the realm of Midgard in Norse mythology.
Yeah, and there's stories about Odin asking Thor to go smash the firmament with his hammer. So it's all there. It's just people have forgotten about their ancient cosmologies and the ancient histories. And I've noticed as well that everyone just assumes that since they're ancient, they're either full of shit, or they don't know what they're talking about, or it was fantasy or mythology.
It was myth as opposed to hard physical science.
Fast evidence, yeah.
Hard evidence, fact. So you are saying it's a globe and a plane.
Yeah. I guess
elaborate on that for me.
It is a
sphere in a plane.
It's a sphere. Yes, it is a sphere, but it's a. I think the easiest way would be just for me to draw it. So I actually have a dry erase board so that I can actually draw it more quickly and easily so that you can see. And I could even attach further images.
We're going to play some Pictionary here.
Pictionary. This is an all new episode.
Okay.
See if my artistic skills are still intact.
Or how they translate to magic marker. I mean, you have a beautiful painting up here on the wall, which is not on camera, but it's pretty fucking amazing.
Thank you, man. I've been doing art since I was just like 2 or 3. Might not show in this diagram, but
yeah, we'll see how it translates to a single black magic marker on dry erase.
So far, so
how
good.
a gifted artist can convey an image. Hopefully, I'm not distracting you.
No, not at all. Actually,
Just
it's kind of, let's see here.
Doing my best to entertain our viewers.
So I'll give you the basic outline here. And then in the center here. So here is the general gist. So you got, so these are concentric shells. That you can find that in the Vedic, what is it? You can find that in the Vedic cosmology, the Rig Veda, the measurement and layout of Bhumandala, which is a Vedic tradition that encompasses a lot of different dimensions, but I'm going to try to condense it down the best I can. Now, I want to say too that this is all just the best I could recollect from memories, but also from just good hard research.
Now, let me just seeing that looks nothing like the photos that we see of what the Earth supposedly looks like from space.
Right.
Now, why is that?
Because so the images that they show you from space, first of all, none of them are actually from space. They're actually digital images rendered by NASA. They have a team of Photoshop people that do all the renderings for the quote-unquote globe Earth. There isn't actually a single photograph of the sphere ball Earth. So far as I can tell, I haven't seen a single one. I've looked too. But those are just renderings of different scans they've taken from high altitude, scanning strips of the Earth, and then there's a team that goes and takes all of those individual strip images and then tries to compile them all as accurately as possible. You can look at some of the pictures they have of the ball Earth, and you will actually see that they've just recloned a whole bunch of clouds or formations of the upper atmosphere, or even of some of the land. You'll see some of the places where they've had to kind of merge them as best they could. So it is not there are no known images of the Earth. People think there is, but there isn't.
So what's the purpose of this? Why the effort to make people believe something if it's not so in this particular situation?
That's the clinch-pin. That's the number one question everyone asks. Well, why the hell would they go through all the trouble?
That's a lot of trouble.
That's a lot of trouble. Yeah, that's why it speaks of in a lot of the ancient texts, especially the biblical texts, it speaks of the great deception, the coming great deception, blah, blah, blah. Don't be confused. Don't be led astray. Everybody's already been led astray. They have no idea the complexity of how much has already been put in place. The level of deception is so complete and so absolute that even people that think they're not going to fall for the deception, they already have. And the reason why is because, so if you have I'm going to draw. If you have an Earth like this, so let's say this is the Earth here, and you got your North America here, come down here, Gulf of Mexico, and then you got South America here, and you got Africa over here, and you got Antarctica, Greenland. So let's say that's your Earth, and you're out here in space, and there's nothing but just empty black space all around you.
I think Antarctica would be at the bottom.
Yeah, Antarctica down here.
There, yeah. That's another video. That'll be another day with the lizard people in Antarctica.
Yeah. But this cosmology here takes away from the fact that this was all designed. It was created. It wasn't just haphazard. This was designed to take people into chaos, into just the notion that they have no control, that they're just insignificant and they're all completely random, that they weren't created. They're just as a result of genetics or breeding or coming from cavemen.
Going back to the Darwinian idea of evolution, essentially this is connected with that.
Yeah.
And also connecting with this idea that what people perceive as science nowadays is the supreme authority.
Yeah.
What physical reductionist science is the supreme authority, and this just basically being another way of undermining previous belief and just putting more power into this new type of belief system, which theoretically should not just be a belief system. It should, science in a pure sense is a method of discovering truth and understanding, of uncovering how things actually are and how things work. But you're saying this whole thing with the globe is not what it's supposed to be, not what it is on the surface, and this is just more of that system. And then going back to the Steiner prophecy of the time of Ahriman, the age of Ahriman. Ahriman is the lord of darkness, the lord of materialism, and that type of reductionist thinking is part of the Ahrimanic age, of when Ahriman takes a body and
which he still might. But the whole it's just a diversion. It's to take everybody's consciousness away from the truth. It's just yet another deception. And so the reason for doing that is because of the it's such a complicated thing to articulate. But
this is a tough one. So if someone rejects the globe and believes more in what you're saying, how does that change? Say if I choose to believe that, how does that affect me as a person? What does that matter for my sovereignty as an individual? If I'm rejecting a globe and just believing this is like a plane in a dome or whatever.
Well,
why does it matter?
Why does it matter? It matters because it was created. It matters because
what if I believe in a globe and believe that's created?
It works that way too. See, that's the beauty of what they did. He's so intelligent. They're so good at what they do that they're able to take what was and just invert it. It's almost like a complete opposite reflection. So rather than the Earth being a ball or a sphere that has the planets on the outside, they used the actual shape of it, which is a sphere, but it's multiple concentric rings or concentric firmaments or concentric layers inside of each other, and then inside it's half filled with earth and water. And so that arrangement is still somewhat similar. They're using the sphere, but then instead of filling it half full of earth and water, they're using the outer surface of the earth. So all the mathematical equations, the way the earth and the sun interact, it's all applicable in a complete reversal, or it's all works the same way. They did their mathematics so perfectly that the whole thing works out exactly the same as if it. So your plane Earth model works out identically to the globe Earth model. It's just in a different fashion.
So you're saying the Masonic equations, which is basically Pythagorean geometry, is what I guess that's derived from.
Yeah. That
all comes out the same.
It all works out. Yeah.
So the people, again, who are in we're going to go to the next part of this, which is those of the conventional belief of a globe. We believe in, I said we, giving myself away. Right? That's been my, I've been in that belief system for so long, but there's a belief of space, this concept of space, and like I mentioned before, the heliocentric model of planets revolving around the sun or moving in ellipses around the sun. And those of this alternative view now don't believe in space. They believe that's a psyop too, or many, not all of them, but many people.
Yeah, and I made
that.
sure of that too. So the thing with all of it is it can't. Everybody's getting completely oversaturated. So you can't tell what's true and what's not anymore. You can't tell what works and what doesn't. What's a psyop? What's not a psyop? So I started breaking it down into the fundamentals, and I realized that at the fundamental level there was something wrong. So take for instance just this cup here. When you fill a container with water, it automatically seeks its level. It's just the nature of water. That's what it does. Now, the problems I started noticing when I actually started to look into it to make sure that my memories were correct in, because I remember us creating it from sound, from frequency, from resonance.
Creating this realm.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are multiple realms. So that brings me back to, so with it, there are multiple spheres here. You can see the concentric spheres. Now, if you look in your Vedic cosmology, this is how they actually have it set. And each layer, there's only 3 here, but there's actually, in some of the Vedic cosmologies, there's 7 to 10. But I remember 10. And each one is filled with a different material: earth, air, fire, water, ether, spirit, and some even say ego and superego. And that's why when the flood of Noah occurred, there was it says in the biblical text, it says that the windows of the heavens opened. So what happens is you have, let's see if I can draw this real quick. So you have what people are calling the Great Rift. It runs up, you know what it is. It's called the Milky Way. So the Milky Way runs up the middle of the firmament and back down the other side. So it looks like something like this.
That's essentially another dome.
That's actually the rift that runs between these 2 halves of the dome.
Okay, so what people perceive as space is a rift. Is that what you're saying?
What people are seeing as space is just the firmament dome. So the firmament during the day is blue because of the material it's made of, and at night it's lit up with stars because the stars are in or on the firmament surface. So it's a hard, fast, crystalline type of structure. I actually even found an MIT, they did an MIT study out of Colorado. You know MIT, the college. They did a study and they sent out signals from Earth up into space, and much to their amazement, the recordings that were measured back at them was that there was a hard, fast structure at about 7,000 miles out. Now, don't quote me on that measurement. I'm doing my best to recall the data that I've come across over a lot of years. But anyway, they found out that there was indeed a hard, fast surface, an actual surface. And this is MIT out of Colorado. And they did the calculations. I do believe it was right about 7,000 miles. But what that's telling you, and that's why they're talking about the Van Allen belt. So they say we can't, they even have many accounts where they're saying we can't actually go to the moon again because of the Van Allen belt. We can't get past the Van Allen belt. What the Van Allen belt is directly behind the firmament that we're seeing above us right now. There's actually ultra high radiation behind that firmament. That's why they're seeing a radiation belt directly behind this range of space here. So what happens is the firmament is here, and this firmament actually begins to open at the end of an age. Now, this one they've been shooting nukes from I don't know where, but they've been nuking the firmament. You can look it up. It's common military knowledge. It's called Operation Dominic or Operation Fishbowl. And they were nuking the sky to see what kind of readings they'd get back. At least that was their cover story. But the real truth is they were nuking the firmament to try to break through it, to try to fracture it. Now, that has exacerbated the already geological or cosmological time frame of the firmament actually cracking. There's a great rift that runs down the middle of the firmament and opens. That's where it says in the Norse mythologies, it says the Bifrost will be shattered, and the warriors of Muspelheim will ride forth.
Now, is this the Ragnarok?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ragnarok, that's another reference to the firmament opening.
So Ragnarok, for the layperson, that's the Norse end of times.
Yeah, that's the Norse apocalypse, the Norse Armageddon battle. So this great rift, which is what you see when you look up and you see that great rift, the Milky Way running above your head, that's the great serpent, or the
Loki's child, serpent.
The great rift.
Interesting.
And that is so when you start seeing meteorites, meteor showers, what happens is when this starts to break open, pieces of it start to fall off, and they start to fall to Earth. Most of them don't make it all the way from here to the surface. They get burnt up in the atmosphere as they're coming down.
Shooting stars, or that's the firmament.
Pieces of the firmament. But what's about to happen in the next, I don't know, maybe 20 years, the firmament will open, and the high radiation that's right behind this layer of the firmament is going to blast through the opening of the firmament, because the firmament, once it cracks and opens, it falls away. One falls that way and one falls this way. That's why in the Bible it says the heavens will be rolled up as a scroll when it is rolled up on a table. That's referring to the firmament is going to falls down under into the underworld, both halves.
So it sounds like if someone is nuking the firmament and this radiation is going to come through, that would wipe out this realm. Why would anyone do that? That sounds like suicide to me.
Well, they're underground. They have underground bases and facilities, so they've already thought all this through.
So they think they can survive underground.
They think so, yes, because they've done it so many times.
So why would they do that?
Because, first of all, because
if they already rule everything here anyway, why would they?
They want to clean the slate and start over. But also they don't half the time know what they're doing. So just because Armon knows what he's doing doesn't mean his tiers know what they're doing.
Okay.
So a lot of these special ops are doing things like this to learn and to figure things out. So it's not always a direct conspiratorial, let's wipe out humanity type of thing. It's more like, let's learn what we can from this. So they've done everything you can imagine to understand this structure, the firmament itself. It's in the Bible. You can even read, so Werner von Braun, he is the one who was the head of NASA. He started NASA, and on his headstone it says, the firmament showeth his handiwork. So that is one of the things they've been trying to understand. But they also, I think they've come to realize that at the end of every age, there's a cataclysm. So each age, a firmament comes down. So what you have is you have an Earth that's got concentric spheres or domes, and inside each layer is a different material, which is earth, air, fire, water, ether. That's why there was the mud floods of Tartaria. That's why there's the flood of Noah. That's why there's Samvardhaka fire, which is a reference from the Hindu text. All these texts are referring to the cataclysm that comes at the end of every age.
Sure, and that's something that can be verified. There are different beliefs about cataclysms, but even the normie world, they have their own explanations of the different changes that happen on the earth.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, so right now, if you do your research, you can find that all around the world, there are sinkholes that are starting to form in different places on the surface of the earth. Even the continent of Africa, I can't really draw it here, but if we looked at the continent of Africa, the Great Rift is starting to open along the eastern shoreline next to Madagascar. The reason why that's happening is because when you have a plain earth like this, and there's the pillars of the earth down here, like this, and then some of this is in the great deep, the abyss, which is down here. Now, the great deep, which is referred to in the Bible, Leviathan and all these different mythical monsters and stuff, you've got, when the firmament opens, what happens is there's pressure differentiation. the air pressure inside the dome loses its pressure, so the pressure leaks out of the broken crack in the firmament, and then the Earth itself tries to re-seek level in that pressure differentiation because the pressure below becomes greater than the pressure above. So then sinkholes start to form and the Earth starts to become unstable.
Well, kind of going back, if they are underground, wouldn't that affect them as well?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be very foolish to nuke the firmament and then go underground if you're going to
Yes.
get sinkholes in the Earth?
They're not.
I thought they were a lot smarter than that.
They're not. Well, he is, but they're not. So it's not always as simple as. See, that's where I think everyone's getting confused about the conspiracies.
I'm getting confused right now.
Somehow everyone thinks that a conspiracy is everyone from top of the tier to the bottom knows. That's not the case. He's at the top of the tier.
And then they're on a need-to-know basis.
Right, and so it goes down like this. So if you're on one of these lower tiers, you're on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah, gotcha.
But these down here are only following orders. So
where would Klaus Schwab be on that?
Klaus Schwab, I would guess he's probably somewhere in this range here.
Whoa, middle management.
Well, I would guess. I mean, he's not even.
What about Bill Gates? Where's he?
Same. They're the public figures. But then as you get up to the higher,
you don't know who they are.
Yeah,
right?
they're the 13 families.
Sense.
So I would say the 13 families is probably here or here somewhere. And then of course, but there's a outward public group that shows a facade, but then there's also the ones behind the scenes. So, like when I mentioned King Charles and Prince William, I'm talking about two individuals that are on the front level being controlled from the back by him directly.
Well, how does eating bugs relate to all of this?
They don't. They want to make sure that these people, they don't want to keep feeding them food, good quality food, and they sure as hell don't want to keep running the machine for all these eaters and breeders. So to them, they might as well be eating bugs because it's all they deserve in their mindset. So Klaus Schwab, those guys, they're it's almost kind of a gaslighting.
Gaslighting, gotcha.
They're trying to actually, they don't. So, and they also, there's a CIA document. It's called The Adam and Eve Story. See how it's going. The Coming Cataclysm. They already know about this, but what they apparently not as aware of is the exact workings of it. I think those at the top might be, but the people watching this, they just hear flat Earth and they just laugh or they think it's silly. There's a lot more to it than just it's not a flat Earth. It's multiple dimensions. So you have a place like this. I remember when I finally kind of broke through in my breath work into that enlightenment territory. I remember when I was back home at my eternal state. I still remember when I woke up and saw that. I remember saying to Mother, I'm home. And she came running over to me. She said, son, you never left. What she was trying to tell me was, I was actually, this is where I was in the beginning. It's top, that's Mount Meru. That's the highest mountain at the center of the plane, concentric Earth. That point is actually what everyone's referring to in the ancient mythologies about the holy mountain, the mountain of God, Mount Zion, Mount Olympus. I can go on and on. That is the nexus point. Actually, the true nexus point is somewhere right smack here, but there's actually one here and one here. So it actually goes down into the Earth as well as it goes above the Earth. And my marker's not working that well. But anyway, this is actually the top. This is where the Garden of Eden was, the first place. Eden means flat top mountain or mesa top. So that was where we actually resided in the beginning when we first created the world. But this mountain here is a lodestone. It is a gigantic, enormous hematite. I think a hematite's the right word. Mountain.
Or is it, what is Odin's rock?
Yeah.
Cannot remember it off the top of my head.
Magnetite?
No. I'll think of it in a second. It's not carnelian. It's a yellow.
Oh, this one's actually a lodestone mountain. It's a magnet.
Okay, loads. Okay.
It's a gigantic. That's where the tree of life. So, and off of the mountain, there was actually a tree that grew. And there's an energetic field that runs up through. Gosh, I wish my pen would work better. Runs up through like this, and there's a toroidal field that goes through the earth, and then also goes down like this. So you've got a toroidal field that goes like this through the center of the earth, and this is the nexus point of all creation right there. So what's happening here, when we've talked about the aliens and the extraterrestrials and all that, there is no outer space and there are no other planets.
Well, we haven't gone into that yet.
Right.
That's going to be a coming video. I think you mentioned that. Are they gods or are they ETs? But yeah.
What I want to touch on, these concentric rings, there's a lot of flat earth people going on about, there's a central realm and then there's another realm and there's another realm. That is actually what's going on. But the thing is it's not an infinite plane going on forever in the 3D sense, in the physical sense. They're concentric realms or rings, spheres that go around and around, and each one of them is in different dimension. So singularity or source is here. Everything comes out of and returns to source. It's a toroidal field. Everything in creation is a toroidal field. But each of those dimensions has a different frequency. So each frequency seems like a different world or a different universe. So each one of these, I would call these realms. These are realms. And then there are multiples of these. And those are different universes. So this here is one universe. As far as I can recall, it's 12 or 13 frequencies. It should be 12. And then the 12th turning into 1 again is the new 13th harmonic.
Isn't that the law of one? Doesn't that go into that?
Right.
From that channeled teaching?
Yeah. So. And I actually haven't watched that or listened to that.
Read that, yeah. But that sounds...
Is that what it sounds like?
Again, I'm not the aficionado on the law of one, but that's something...
Along those lines.
Along those lines, yeah.
So each of these is a different frequency and a different vibration. Also, what happens when we originally had 10 firmaments, we are at 6 now. 6 or 7. Gosh, I try to keep all this data straight in my head, but we're either at 6 or 7. And so we've had 6 cataclysms that have hit the earth already. That is because 6 firmaments have already come down. That's why in the Bible it says that the stars will fall from the heavens like a fig when it is shaken in a mighty wind. That means that the firmament is going to streak downward, and all the stars, it's going to look like they're falling to the earth. And the halves of the firmament are going to roll up like a scroll. They're going to go under the earth like a scroll when it rolls up, like they all roll up like that. And so the references in all of these ancient historical and or biblical mythological traditions are telling the same stories, but in a different way. So when there were more firmaments, there was more pressure. There was more atmospheric pressure, not only on the surface of the plane, but also in the atmosphere itself. So the beings were in basically a hyperbaric chamber, so they were much, much bigger. So that's why there were giants in the earth in those days, because before the firmament of Noah, there was more atmospheric pressure, so the bodies had higher saturation of oxygen levels, hemoglobin levels were higher, and not to mention their DNA was more highly activated.
Is this the Nephilim you
Yes.
were referring to?
Yes.
Now, with the story of the Nephilim, not to digress, aren't they the products of men or women and fallen angels? Isn't that they're the seed of women, earthly women and fallen angels? Is that
the serpent, the Nagas, serpent, that we spoke about in Gods and Serpents video, he came down, he was cast out, and the firmament came down at the same time when he was cast out. We all fell of vibration, and he was cast down to the earth, and pieces of the firmament actually fell with him. They have pieces over there in Africa. There was a place where some of the chunks fell, and a guy actually was collecting them, and he wanted to find out where the heck this thing had come from, because he couldn't find any, in the analytics, it wasn't showing as any known earth element. So he went back to the village and asked the shaman, he said, where is this? And he said, oh, I can show you exactly where that came from. And he took the guy to the actual spot where, quote unquote, the reptile or the Naga people fell. They said they were thrown out of heaven, specifically to the chief. And so that when he was cast out and came to the lower frequency, or to, so in other words, here was heaven. He was cast from the mountaintop down to live and dwell with the other beings. Now what happened was is he landed on Mount Hermon. As far as I can tell, that is his, I try my best to trace his footsteps, but it's not easy because there's so many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years of story. But so far as I can tell, his first landing spot was in Mount Hermon. Either that or Mount Hermon is just another retelling of the same story of another landing place. But suffice it to say, him and his fallen angels landed, and at first they were more in the spiritual frequency. So they couldn't mate with the human women. And they tried the first time and they failed. So then they went back to the drawing board and they figured out how to change the resonance of their spirit form to match the likeness of the human males. And when they figured out how to do that, then they were able to harmonically shift into a third, well, I don't want to say third, I want to say that probably would have been more in the fourth or fifth. But they were able to shift down a notch to match the vibration of the beings that were there, and then they bred with them.
Enough to make physical contact, essentially.
Right. Yeah. And then they had sex with them, and then that breeding with the alien, with the human, caused a hybrid to be created.
With the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying these, also going back to these realms outside of the earth, these are different frequencies, essentially. Right. And so beings from these other frequencies, when they come, they have to match the resonance of.
Yes, and that's where people, that's why people, when they talk about the spirit world, people say, oh, there's nothing after you die. Well, that's just because you can't see the other frequency. Bob Dylan is quoted as saying he signed a deal with the chief commander of this world, and he said, do I want to know who you signed the deal with? He said, yeah, the chief commander. And he said, of this world? And he said, Bob Dylan said, yes, of this world and the one you can't see. So he's referring to the spirit realm. This isn't conspiracy. These musicians and these actresses and actors, they have a little bit more of an inside knowing than we do, and they are sometimes spilling it out or saying it. And that's why a lot of these musicians are getting knocked off. Chris Cornell personally has talked to me directly through a medium about how they killed him. Same with, what was the other guy? Linkin Park's
Chester Bennington.
He got knocked off too. So did Michael Jackson. So I can go on and on and on. What's happening is they're dying and they're going back into the spirit realm. Then they're coming back through mediums and channels to speak back to us about what happened to them.
And they spoke to you personally.
Yes. Chris, I can talk. I have a friend who's a medium, and
what was the vibe with you and Chris Cornell? Did you share something on a soul connection with him? Was that?
Definitely, yeah. It was kind of like this brotherly thing, yeah. And he's now on the other side assembling a team to help combat and fight back through, to help divulge a lot of information, help move information around. Like, for instance, when you have documents that they like to keep hidden, sometimes they can manipulate that part of reality and get that kind of stuff to be seen out in the open. So they're doing a lot of stuff in the spirit world behind the scenes to make sure that that this deception is called out and hopefully rooted for what it's.
So with fighting on the other side, if you will.
Yeah, so I've been trying to help him, and he's trying to put together a group of people from the spirit world to help fight from that side. So in context, though, that you've got a realm here that's quote unquote third dimensional, or this is the real world that we're in right now, the matrix. This is the world of the real. There are multiple endless dimensions that continue infinitely. Now, in the Vedic traditions, what you have is each, so they have it in this light. They have each concentric sphere is twice as big from here to here as it is from here to here. So the distances that you're are doubling exponentially each time. That's how they have it described in the Vedic traditions of the Rig Veda. But the truth is, it's actually multiple dimensions. That's why the military, the CIA and the black ops companies, these different people, the Philadelphia experiment, they're learning how to go from dimension to another dimension to another dimension. The trouble is, though, is it's not straightforward like that. So if you go to the lower dimensions, let's say, and that's why when people are in there, when someone dies and goes to heaven, I asked Chris Cornell, I said, so what's it like? I need to know what it's like for you there. Talk to me about what you're seeing, how you experience your reality. He says, well, you know, it'd be like you going to the edge of a building and looking down. That's how I'm seeing you, like people on the streets. So what happens is this is our dimension here. He is in the one just above us, so it appears to him as though he's looking down. But there's also dimensions below us. So those are the underworld dimensions. But the thing is this...
So who goes to the underworld?
Depends on your vibration. So that's what our last video was so helpful about with the...
So would that be people who are in the Illuminati? Did they go to is Klaus Schwab going to the underworld?
Yeah, especially if he knows what he's doing. Now, if
so David Rockefeller, he'd be in the underworld right now.
Yeah,
right?
David and John was I think John was a direct incarnation of Ahriman, of a Naga.
John the First or John?
Well, the old one that looks kind of creepy in photos.
Yeah, I think that might be.
Is that John the First, Senior?
Might be John the Second.
Well, if you look at those pictures of him, that's one of the few pictures I've seen that I could tell a person that that's him incarnate, because he
looks like a reptile.
Yeah, that's why he was losing all his hair. He wasn't able to hold the human form very well.
So he's in the underworld.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, he should be. He might. So when we did that one, we talked about King Charles, Prince William, the gods and serpents. I don't doubt that he'll try to reincarnate again, but the chances of him succeeding are probably not that good. Because if you look at the John D. Rockefeller photos, he's not doing so hot there. You can clearly see the whole visage of his face and his demeanor.
The interesting thing is, it seems like those who make that pact or take on that spirit, they live a long time.
Yeah,
so they live in their 90s up to 100 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and they've been trying to cheat death, but they can't, because the spirit eventually diminishes and removes itself from the physical form.
And the most recent of obvious was David Rockefeller, who passed away not too long ago,
and he was a pretty good.
Yeah, he looked kind of.
Yeah, he was. I don't think that was him directly, but it was one of his descendants. It's hard for me sometimes to tell the difference, but.
So, that would be another video in and of itself.
Yeah, but just to suffice it to say that this is the 0 point. Right here is the 0 point. Everything actually happens here. There are no other dimensions. I know I've just told you a whole bunch of facts, but there isn't any other place. This here, whatever you manifest or whatever vibration you hold, is what reality
comes out of the 0 point.
Right.
Yeah. So the 0 point is here. It's not the sun. No. You would say that, like the with the helium.
It's actually in an individual. It's at the bottom of the heart. So the heart actually creates a toroidal field as well. The heart is shaped kind of like a wedge shaped. And at the very bottom, the muscles actually squeeze in a sevenfold
sort of where the upper chakras meet the lower, essentially.
Yeah.
That's the bridge between the two.
That's why the heart chakra is green, and that's why the earth is green, because it's the heart, it's the middle place. That's the emanation source from which everything is created. So when the heart squeezes, there's actually 7 muscles that are in charge of the contraction, and they actually contract. If they get to be in the proper synchronization, they cause a Fibonacci or a harmonic resonance to unfold. So when they squeeze, they actually throw the blood through the vessels and the veins in the system, and it creates a frequency or a resonance called the heart song. And the heart song, you look into Dan Winters. Dan Winters is an amazing scientist. He's done an extensive amount of work on this. But if you can get Fibonacci resonance to stand on itself. So if you can get a smaller Fibonacci frequency to stand on it, and then another one and another one, you create perfect coherence. So what happened is we started at the 12th to 13th, I think it was 12th, and we came all the way down to the lowest frequency, which is where we're at now, about to be now. And once all of these firmaments and all of these things collapse, then you have a new frequency that's created by all of these becoming one. They stand on themselves to create an eternal frequency. So the resonance that you learn throughout all of these dimensions, from the 12th all the way down to the 1st, they all collapse. The whole thing is destroyed, and you're resurrected into an eternal frequency, which is when you have perfect coherence of frequency, which means my 12th, which is my spirit frequency, and my human, which is my animal frequency, they've all come into resonance and alignment. That's why the last video I was speaking about, it's not that you die that matters, it's how you die and when.
And that's there are other spiritual beliefs that theosophy says something very similar in different words, as do most wisdom teachings says something similar. Yeah. So that brings us back again to the relevance again of the belief of the nature of who and what we are. So
the relevance is because he wants to make sure you don't know any of the sacred science. This is all sacred. This is just practical. It's the merging of the quantum and the physics.
So if you just believe you're just this meat suit walking a globe, that's all you are, then that's going to dramatically affect how you show up in your life and what you do with your time and your energy and your attention.
And you'll always be giving away your sovereignty too, because if you live here on this ball Earth that's just suspended in space and there's no one there to protect you, there's nothing to stop the asteroids from hitting you, you're just a random, haphazard, pathetic excuse for a meat sack. You're not really empowered.
Just wandering the Earth aimlessly, getting speeding tickets and hangovers. Right.
Yes. It's just, it takes away your power. The truth is if everybody knew that God is here and there in each individual person, and creation emanates from you. That's why I think people are getting a little triggered by what we're doing about me talking about Mother and Father, because they think that I'm talking about some fictitious mythological God, just like the Bible is and all these other texts. But the truth is, Mother and Father are quite real, but they're also just an emanation from me or from you. Everything that you're experiencing is an emanation from you. And that's all Mother and Father want anyone to know. They want me to tell everybody that here at the center of all creation is you. And it's you that creates it all. From that heart, so the resonance of the heart creating that frequency spectrum creates the reality around you that you see. And what controls the heart is the head. Because the head, deciding what it believes in and what it likes and what it doesn't like, what its preferential ideals are, then the heart follows suit and creates the harmonic resonance to match what the mind believes is true.
So I'm going to digress, but not really. We're going to actually use this real world example of what you just said. So my speeding ticket. So I created that somehow.
Yes, you did.
So
absolutely.
Let's look at, so that's going to hit me financially. That's going to be, how does money factor into this?
Money is just another form of energy exchange. Okay. So I noticed that those things happen when you were in more alignment, and then you take a step back.
Interesting.
And then it's just like, hey, no, keep going. You were doing it the right way.
So I fall out of alignment.
It's not even a major thing. It's just a minor.
And that's a reminder that I'm out of alignment, getting this hit on my energy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because your energy was up here, and you took that step back.
and
then it's like just a reminder that's down, not up, or whatever.
That's the wrong direction for me to go.
Just for you,
That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And I notice it too. You know, every once in a while, I'll have a glass of wine or whatever, and it just goes bam, like.
Or could it be that with energy, like money in particular, it's always got to flow.
Yeah.
Could this could be something that seems down, but there's a big upside around the corner, being contingent if I realign in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. That it could be trying to show you show you the importance of it, maybe.
But I came here.
Yeah,
I got the speeding ticket to come here.
That is.
Am I out of alignment being here?
No, I don't think. I try not to ever go. I try not to ever say alignment or out of alignment.
See, because I could, and it was. I chose to see my dad on Father's Day. So this is not going to air on Father's Day, but this is, and I don't regret doing that. So
no. What I mean is like, it's to me, it's just an equation of higher vibration or lower, which sometimes going lower is better because it helps you to grow or helps you to cover or learn something that maybe.
Interesting. So when I go back into that, yeah, and I've noticed that when I do go into the lower vibration, there's always money stuff that accompanies that. There's usually big hits in that issue that go with it. So
yeah, I think it's more to do with our idea around money, like getting a speedy, maybe it could be as simple as reminding you to slow down because maybe
patience.
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, but maybe if he hadn't stopped you, maybe someone would have run a red light. There can be so many variables in why the whole thing plays out. But the one thing I have noticed is the way the universe plays out is always perfect. It's always a perfect reckoning of all events. And that means because your events and your timing in that whole thing could have been changed because someone else's timing was going to align with yours in a different way. Could be a whole bunch of different variables.
So being stopped for that little bit could have saved my life.
Could have. You never know. It could have done a number of things. It could have realigned you to be here at the right time rather than the wrong time. Or it could have just set in motion you thinking these thoughts that you're now thinking and us talking about this content the way we're talking about it. Because people, and that goes back to, remember the short that we've shared just recently, you posted, the You Are Perfect one? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about that. When I say, no, you're perfect exactly the way you are. We had one of the viewers, apparently, I'm just going to say you were a Christian, but you flipped out and you said, the only perfection is in Christ. And I had a good laugh about that because that's the very type of thinking that they want you to keep perpetuating. They don't want you to think you're perfect, but I'm not going to, skirt around that. So
so kind of going back to the content of this video, like externalization of power is essentially a big theme of those who want to keep you down, keep you enslaved, keep you trapped. And so I guess this whole model again of the globe versus the realms, or as you say, what things actually are, is another indication of that. And what these videos that we do about are promoting discussion, or promoting mostly like questioning. Is it true? Is what I believe empowering me to a fulfilling life, to joy, to my potential, to my greatest expression of who and what I am? Or am I diminished in what I believe?
Well, and the fact that you're relying on these other individuals, these officials to tell you what the earth looks like, go look at it for yourself. Go do the research. Get on and do it. That's what I did. I said, all right, I don't care whether it's purple, flat, square, rectangular. I could care less. What I care about is getting to the bottom of what's really going on here. And when I look out there and I'm on the beach and I see the horizon, I'm sorry, but there's really not a whole lot of ball curve to the whole thing. And I've even gone into the research so far that I just finally ended up saying, all right, that's fine. That's great. It's just, that looks like that's what it is. But the whole point of this whole message is not whether the earth is a plane or a ball. The point of this is find out for yourself. Take your truth back by trying to find it for yourself. Stop relying on all these officials and all these people that supposedly know better than you, because that's where everyone's giving away their power. They're saying, well, they know more, they know better, and they don't. Oftentimes I found that, like you pointed out earlier, they're not quite as intelligent as everyone's giving them credit for.
Well, and this is the paradox and the slippery slope. As to get good at something, you do have to put the reps in. You do need to put the time to build wisdom and understanding. And this is the trap. Like, if you haven't put time into developing, like I don't know everything.
Yeah.
There are things that you're good at that I'm going to rely on you for, and the things that I'm good at, you're going to need to lean on me for. But the issue that we're facing in this world is that people, I guess, who have authority and big titles are potentially misusing that and misleading people to harness power for themselves. So
yeah, and that's a tough one.
So it's tough to navigate, again, when you haven't done research, and it's a tricky thing. Like finding the truth for yourself is an ongoing process that I've found, and it's something that, as long as I'm in this physical body, I'm always going to be ascending or pulling back layers of deception. I've accepted that as long as I'm in this physical body and have matter, then there's always going to be a layer of deception that I have to pull back. And we have to find some way of finding peace within our existence while doing that. Because otherwise,
that's tricky.
I would say, because paranoia is a miserable existence too, and you can very easily go into these states of paranoia where you don't trust anything or believe in anything or anyone. Nihilism, paranoia.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to make that clear. The reason I'm doing it isn't because I care about anything. I'm not paranoid in any fashion. As a matter of fact, I'm just completely committed to an objective as much as I could possibly manage, just to stay. What I did is I just took the whole box of junk and I threw it on the table and said, I got to go through this whole thing. Unopinionated, completely objective. And I know a lot of you watching are going to think, well, you are opinionated. You've got this Christian narrative and this Christian mindset and this mother and father God. And how is that any different? Well, the reason it's different is because that's not my opinion. Those are first-hand experiences, recollections. So if my first-hand experiences and recollections are not true, then we're all screwed, because that means that our genuine, real, true experiences are no longer valid. So this whole thing is a wash. None of us have the truth, and there's no way to find the truth unless our genuine experiences hold some type of value. So when I'm going through all this stuff, and I will say this material has been at least 15, if not 20 years of pretty hard, pretty heavy, and pretty intense research. But I'm completely objective. I don't care which one way or the other. And then I'm merging that information that I'm rigorously sifting through. Like with this model, for instance, I knew the whole ball Earth thing back, upside down, and sideways. I knew about all the planets. I knew about all the stars. I knew about black holes. I knew about where Father and Mother were situated in that creation. I knew about all the realms. But what happened is that when I realized that that wasn't the true context, the whole thing flipped and changed into another dynamic or another rendering of the same thing, because the material was all still there. It's just it was all changing context. So I want to make it clear that none of this is my opinion. I had the awesome researcher Billy Carson. I watched a comment that he had made on one of his videos, and he said he wasn't making any of this up off the top of his dome. This is a biblical text. But see, what you guys aren't aware of is I've gone through all of those texts. If there are any that I'm missing, by all means, please share them with me. But the problem, though, with those ancient texts is they can be and are wrong as well. Just because someone wrote something down doesn't mean it's the truth. And I'm speaking from firsthand experience. Like for instance, the resurrection. There was no bodily resurrection.
So let me just stop you there. I want to wrap this up. So you're talking, so for someone finding the truth, how does one differentiate an authentic firsthand experience from delusion? And why should someone believe you?
Well, I guess the easiest way to decipher that is what it gives, what it causes, what it. Now, if people were watching these videos and it wasn't helping them, then I'd say, yeah, probably
so you would say fruit, and
yeah,
what's reflected back
yeah.
is going to be an indicator of something authentic and truthful.
Yeah, because I mean, every Buddhist monk sitting in every temple in India could be called delusional for saying they had an enlightenment. Or
Sure, yeah.
the difference is when something happens because of the hard work, like you start to have quote unquote enlightenment states, or you start to see and experience things of an enlightened status.
I would say too, how you personally show up in the world. If you're able to show up in I would say what is true, what is an alignment that feeds you, that empowers you. So when you walk with your head held high, heart full, regardless sometimes of the chaos around you, regardless of some of the, I'm a believer too, like you are, that we do create and are co-creating all the time. There are all these fractals of God, these different fractals of God that are co-creating from different perspectives.
Yeah.
But when you are in alignment with your truth, that's been my experience. But I think that's a good place to end this one. This has been a good one today.
Yeah, this is very nice. I was looking forward to that.
Possibly
subject.
My favorite one thus far. So
me too. I like getting into that cosmology stuff. I'm glad you brought it today.
All right. So this is Jason Abraham, the Shadow Teacher 33 with
Jonathan Johnson.
And we are signing off. Until next time.